झांग जिनियन तेजी से उस सफ़ेद आकृति की ओर दौड़ा। चरण, चेंग यूफेंग और बाई यंग उसके पीछे पीछे चल रहे थे। किसी को अपना पीछा करते देख सफ़ेद आकृति भागने के लिए मुड़ी। एक ही सांस में झांग जिनियन उसके सिर के ऊपर से उड़ गया और उसके भागने का रास्ता रोक दिया। सफ़ेद आकृति कुछ देर रुकी, मुड़कर भागने का इरादा किया, लेकिन जैसे ही उसने पीछे मुड़कर देखा, उसने देखा कि चरण और बाकी दो लोग उसके पास आ पहुंचे थे, ज्यादा दूर नहीं। एक चिमटे के हमले में फंसकर सफ़ेद आकृति जमीन पर गिर पड़ी और तभी सभी को उसका रूप रंग साफ दिखाई दिया। वह लगभग 1 मीटर लंबा था, दुबला पतला, थोड़ा बेढंगा शरीर और एक वयस्क जितना बड़ा सिर। उसके चेहरे को देखने पर उसकी नुकीली नाक और बंदर जैसा जबड़ा था। उसके चेहरे पर कई महीन रेखाएं और पीले धब्बे थे, जिससे वह छोटा, बूढ़ा और बदसूरत लग रहा था। पहली नज़र में वह सचमुच थोड़ा अटपटा लग रहा था, लेकिन चरण समझ गया कि वह कोई भूत या आत्मा नहीं, बल्कि एक इंसान था। तो क्या तुम ही चाले चल रहे थे? चरण ने उसके सफ़ेद कपड़े और खून से भरी बाल्टी देखी और आश्चर्य से चिल्लाया। यह एक बौना था, कद में छोटा, लगभग 60 साल का। इस समय उसकी पीठ पर रखे बैग से एक महिला के धीमे रोने की आवाज़ अभी भी सुनाई दे रही थी। खुद को घिरा देखकर बौने का चेहरा एकदम बदल गया और उसने तुरंत बगल से निकलने की कोशिश की। चरण और झांग जिनियन ने यह देखा तो उसे रोकने के लिए तेजी से आगे बढ़े। आगे की मुठभेड़ में बौना उन चारों का कोई मुकाबला नहीं कर सका और झांग जिनियन ने उसे तुरंत पकड़ लिया। चरण ने देखा कि उसके सामने वाला बौना केवल प्रकाश कौशल में ही निपुण था, उसकी युद्ध कला चरण से थोड़ी ही बेहतर हो सकती है। हालांकि झांग जिनियन के सामने ये कुछ हद तक अपर्याप्त था। झांग जिनियन ने बौने के एक्यू पॉइंट बंद कर दिए थे, जिससे वह हिल नहीं पा रहा था, और उसने गुस्से से चरण और दूसरों को घूरा। चरण ने अपने थैले में हाथ डाला और एक रेडियो निकाला, जिससे उसकी आवाज़ बंद हो गई। अंधेरी रात में औरत का रोना बहुत भयानक लग रहा था। उसकी जांच करने के बाद चरण ने पूछा, क्या तुम ही पिछले कुछ दिनों से निर्माण स्थल पर शरारतें कर रहे थे? तुम आखिर क्या करना चाहते हो? बौने ने ठंडी सांस ली, मुंह कसकर बंद कर लिया और कोई जवाब देने का इरादा नहीं दिखाया। जाओ, इधर उधर देखो, कहीं उसका कोई साथी तो नहीं है। झांग जिनियन ने हाथ हिलाकर अपने दोनों शिष्यों को निर्देश दिया। जी हाँ गुरु, चेंग यूफेंग और बाई यंग ने आदेश लिया और तुरंत आसपास की तलाशी लेने निकल पड़े। चलो उसे वापस ले चलते हैं और उससे अच्छी तरह पूछताछ करते हैं। चारण ने भौहें चढ़ाईं, ये देखकर कि बौना सच कबूल करने को तैयार नहीं था और उसे वापस ले जाकर गहन पूछताछ करने के लिए तैयार हो गया। झांग जिनियन ने हाथ हिलाया और कहा, इतनी परेशानी की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है। उसने अपने पास से एक ताबीज निकाला, अपनी उंगली का पो काटा, ताबीज के कागज़ पर कुछ निशान बनाए और फिर उसे बौने के माथे पर लगा दिया। यह क्या है? एक सत्य ताबीज, यह उसे सच बोलने पर मजबूर कर सकता है। झांग जिनियन बोलते ही उसकी आंखें चमक उठीं और उसने बौने की आंखों में गौर से देखते हुए पूछा, तुम कौन हो? इस खाली जगह पर चाले चलने का क्या मकसद है? चारण ने आश्चर्य से झांग जिनियन को देखा, उसे उम्मीद नहीं थी कि उसमें ऐसी क्षमता होगी। बौने की आंखें सूनी हो गईं, उसका मुंह हिलने लगा और एक कर्कश, अप्रिय आवाज़ सुनाई दी। मैं एक कब्र उचक्का हूँ। इस जमीन के नीचे एक प्राचीन कब्र संग्रह है। मैं निर्माण टीम के काम शुरू करने से पहले ही सभी दफन कलाकृतियों को चुरा लेना चाहता था, इसलिए मैंने निर्माण टीम की प्रगति में देरी करने के लिए कई अलौकिक घटनाएं रची। चरण सचमुच हैरान था, उसने सचमुच उम्मीद नहीं की थी कि इस जमीन के नीचे एक प्राचीन कब्र संग्रह होगा। हालांकि झांग जिनियन हैरान नहीं था। जब वह पहले आया था तो उसे इस क्षेत्र में फेंग शुई की विचित्रता का पहले ही आभास हो गया था। बस रात में दृश्यता कम थी, इसलिए वह केवल एक सामान्य अनुमान ही लगा सका। अब कब्र उचक्का की बातें सुनने के बाद उसने अपने संदेह की पुष्टि कर दी। ये प्राचीन कब्र संग्रह किस काल का है और आपको इसके बारे में कब से पता है? आपने अंदर से कितनी चीजें निकाली हैं? झांग जिनियन ने जोर देकर कहा, मुझे इसकी खोज आधे महीने पहले हुई थी। ये पूर्वी हान राजवंश के कुलीनों का एक प्राचीन कब्र संग्रह होना चाहिए। मैंने अंदर से कुछ मुद्रा, कांसे की कलाकृतियां, मिट्टी के बर्तन वगैरह निकाले हैं। बौने की आंखें खाली थीं और उसने स्तब्ध होकर जवाब दिया। चरण और झांग जिनियन दोनों थोड़े हैरान थे, उन्हें उम्मीद नहीं थी कि यह कब्र चोर उनकी जानकारी के बिना इतना कुछ कर सकता है। क्या तुम्हारे कोई और साथी हैं? नहीं, सिर्फ मैं ही हूँ। ये सुनकर चरण ने राहत की सांस ली। बिना साथियों के तो और भी आसान होगा। चलो पहले उसे वापस ले चलते हैं। चरण ने एक पल सोचा, इतनी बड़ी बात को छुपाया नहीं जा सकता था। लौटने के बाद बेहतर होगा कि अधिकारी ही इस काम के लिए लोगों का इंतजाम करें। ठीक है। झांग जिनियन ने सिर हिलाया और बौने को मारा, जिससे वह बेहोश हो गया। चेंग यूफेंग और बाई यंग वापस आए और चरण और झांग जिनियन से कहा, हमने चारों तरफ खोजबीन कर ली है और आसपास उसका कोई साथी नहीं है। पहले वापस चलते हैं। झांग जिनियन ने चेंग यूफेंग को बौने को उठाने के लिए कहा और सब लोग साथ में गाड़ी में वापस आ गए। मजदूरों के तंबू के अंदर कुछ मजदूरों ने बाहर की हल्की सी हलचल सुनी तो डर के मारे कांप उठे और बाहर आकर जांच करने की हिम्मत नहीं जुटा पाए। इसलिए किसी को पता ही नहीं चला कि चरण और बाकी लोगों ने अपराधी को पहले ही पकड़ लिया था। फुयुआन लौटने पर रात के लगभग 1:30 बज रहे थे। चरण ने किसी को आदेश दिया कि पहले कब्र पर हमला करने वाले को हिरासत में लिया जाए। उसने लू हुई को भी निर्देश दिया कि वह लोगों को निर्माण स्थल पर गश्त के लिए ले जाए। वह और झांग जिनियन भी पहले आराम करने के लिए अपने अपने कमरों में लौट आए। किसी भी मामले को कल तक निपटाना होगा, नींद ज्यादा जरूरी थी। चरण अपने कमरे में लौटा, अपने बाहरी कपड़े उतारे और अपनी पत्नी और बेटी को बिस्तर पर गहरी नींद में सोते देखा। उसकी आंखें कोमलता से भर आईं। उसने सावधानी से रजाई का कोना उठाया और प्रिया को अपनी बाहों में भर लिया। अपनी पत्नी की हल्की सी खुशबू को सूंघते हुए उसने संतोष से आंखें बंद कर लीं और शांति से सो गया। अगले दिन नाश्ते के बाद चरण ने हुआंगान काउंटी के लिए काउंटी मजिस्ट्रेट ली चांगमिंग को फोन किया। चरण का फोन आते ही ली चांगमिंग ने जल्दी से फोन उठाया और विनम्रता से पूछा, शिक्षाविद किन, मैं आपकी क्या मदद कर सकता हूँ। चरण ने शुरू किया, ली काउंटी मजिस्ट्रेट, क्या आपको अभी भी जमीन के वो 2 प्लॉट याद हैं जो आपने मुझे कुछ समय पहले आवंटित किए थे। ये सुनकर ली चांगमिंग का दिल बैठ गया। उसे डर था कि शायद जमीन में कोई समस्या होगी। उसने जल्दी से पूछा, मुझे याद है। क्या इन 2 प्लॉटों में कुछ गड़बड़ है? अस्पताल बनाने के लिए ज़मीन तो सामान्य है, लेकिन स्कूल बनाने के लिए ज़मीन, उसके नीचे एक प्राचीन मकबरा परिसर बन गया है। क्या? चरण की बातें सुनकर ली चांगमिंग का मुंह खुला का खुला रह गया। इसीलिए हमें पता है कि नीचे एक प्राचीन मकबरा परिसर है, क्योंकि एक मकबरा लुटेरे ने। चरण ने ली चांगमिंग को पिछली रात की घटना का संक्षिप्त विवरण दिया। ली चांगमिंग बहुत हैरान हुए और उन्होंने तुरंत चरण के प्रति आभार और क्षमा याचना व्यक्त की। मुझे सूचित करने के लिए धन्यवाद, शिक्षाविद किन। चूंकि इस जमीन का इस्तेमाल स्कूल बनाने के लिए नहीं किया जा सकता, मैं किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति का प्रबंध करूंगा जो आपके लिए इस जमीन के बदले में दूसरी जमीन ले लेगा। ठीक है, तो मैं ली काउंटी मजिस्ट्रेट को इसके लिए परेशान करूंगा। चरण ने सिर हिलाया। बाद में मैं किसी से उस कब्र उग्रवादी को भेज दूंगा। वैसे उसके पास मार्शल आर्ट के हुनर हैं, इसलिए आपको उसकी सावधानीपूर्वक रखवाली करनी होगी। ठीक है, याद दिलाने के लिए शुक्रिया, शिक्षाविद किन। ली चांगमिंग ने बार बार सिर हिलाया। उनके स्वर में उत्साह का भाव था। फोन रखने के बाद चरण ने किसी को कब्र उग्रवादी को ली चांगमिंग के पास भेजने का इंतजाम किया। अपना काम पूरा करने के बाद चरण झांग जिनियन को ढूंढने चला गया। इस बार बड़े भाई झांग की बदौलत हम इस मामले को इतनी जल्दी सुलझा पाए। मेरा तहे दिल से शुक्रिया। झांग जिनियन ने हाथ हिलाकर कहा, आपका स्वागत है चरण, मैं भी आपका ऋणी हूँ। उस औषधि को लेने के बाद ही मैं एक उच्च लोक में पहुंच पाया। और हाँ, मुझे आपका शुक्रिया अदा करना चाहिए। After chatting with Zhang Jinian for a while, Zhang Jinian, who was going to visit an old friend with 2 disciples, prepared to take his leave. Charan, holding Kairan, personally saw them off. Although little Kairan couldn't say many words yet, she could already wave goodbye. When Zhang Jinian saw his little disciple's adorable appearance, his heart almost melted. Run, grow up quickly. When the time comes, I will personally teach you. His eyes were filled with anticipation as he looked at little Kairan. Little Kairan didn't understand what he was saying. She just grinned and waved goodbye to Zhang Jinian. I'm leaving. Master will come to see you again in a while. Zhang Jinian looked at little Kairan with loving eyes twice before getting up and leaving. Charan, holding his daughter, watched the 3 of them, master and disciples, depart. After seeing Zhang Jinian off, Charan called Ren Yuanchao. Mr. Ren, the haunting incident at the construction site has been dealt with. Beneath that land is actually a tomb complex from the Eastern Han dynasty. Grave robbers wanted to steal the burial artifacts, which is why they pretended to be ghosts and disturbed the construction team. Now that land is about to be taken over by the authorities. You should withdraw the construction team and prepare to build the school at a new address. Ren Yuanchao was very surprised to hear this. He quickly nodded and said, Okay, Mr. Keen, I'll arrange it right away. After their call ended, Charan got up to accompany Priya for a walk in the garden. Priya was 7 months pregnant, her body was heavy, and her enlarged abdomen made it inconvenient for her to move. The doctor said she should walk more so that the delivery would be smoother. Charan accompanied her for a walk in the garden every day. On the other side, after Li Changming interrogated the grave robber, he uncovered more detailed information. The grave robber's real name was Zhu Cheng. He had inherited grave robbing skills from his ancestors and had also cultivated internal strength, making his light body skill excellent. He had some reputation in the grave robbing industry and had done his fair share of grave robbing. This time, after discovering the ancient tomb complex beneath Huang'an County, he kept it quiet, not revealing a single word, hoping to secretly steal all the burial artifacts inside. Who knew that just as he opened the passage to the tomb and hadn't even taken a few antiques, a construction team came and started work. Upon discovering this, Zhu Cheng was burning with anxiety, fearing that the construction team would notice something unusual and unearth the ancient tomb complex below. So, to delay the construction team's progress, he came up with the trick of pretending to be a ghost to scare people. Unexpectedly, this trick actually worked. The workers were so scared that they were disoriented and couldn't work normally. During this time, Zhu Cheng secretly went down again and stole some more items. Originally, if he had stopped in time, no one would have been able to catch him. But Zhu Cheng's greed grew. He believed that there must be even better burial artifacts in the ancient tomb complex. So, while pretending to be a ghost and terrifying the workers, he continued to dig passages below, hoping to find more valuable antiques. As a result, because he lingered a bit too long, his trick of pretending to be a ghost happened to encounter Zhang Jinian, whom Charan had invited. Zhang Jinian could tell at a glance whether there were ghosts in this area. Thus, Zhu Cheng suffered a Waterloo and was caught by Zhang Jinian and Charan. His only failure was being caught by the Motion sect's sect leader. Zhu Cheng could cry his heart out, but there was nowhere to reason. After the authorities took over Zhu Cheng, they used some methods to extract a lot of information from him. All the antiques he had stolen were recovered by the authorities. In addition, they began to organize experts to go down into the tomb for investigation. After the first batch of archaeologists went down to investigate, they found that it was indeed an ancient tomb complex below. And the quantity was not small. The archaeologists began their excavation. On Charan's side, Li Changming also quickly helped select a new address for building the school. The new land was larger in area. After Charan replanned, he decided to build another kindergarten. His daughter was already 1 year old. In 2 or 3 years, she would be ready for kindergarten. If she went to the kindergarten he opened himself, Charan would feel more at ease. After revising the design blueprints, Charan handed them over to Ren Yuanchao, asking him to arrange for the construction team to prepare for work. After finishing his work, Charan thought he could finally relax and get some good rest. Who knew another problem would arise? This matter was related to Tiansheng Electric. Recently, many counterfeit and shoddy products of Tiansheng Electric had appeared on the market. Appliances like televisions, washing machines, refrigerators, and air conditioners looked exactly like Tiansheng Electric's products. The outer packaging was also similar, printed with Tiansheng Electric's product information, but the quality inside was far inferior. This batch of fake products was quite outdated and of very poor quality. Many customers were very angry when they bought them and found that they didn't match the advertisements at all. Recently, the number of complaints against Tiansheng Electric had been increasing, and this matter even made it into newspaper reports. Many people also held a skeptical attitude towards Tiansheng Electric. After this matter escalated, Tiansheng Electric's products had been somewhat unsaleable recently and were boycotted by some people. Chao King, the person in charge of Tiansheng Electric, immediately reported this matter to Charan, Jing Dang, and Vikram after learning about it. Jing Dang and Vikram came to Charan's place and the three of them discussed countermeasures. Immediately clarify on public platforms such as TV stations and newspapers, explaining Tiansheng Electric's anti-counterfeiting marks to everyone. Teach them how to distinguish between genuine and fake products. In addition, investigate as quickly as possible who is behind the counterfeiting. We must catch those people as soon as possible, Charan said in a deep voice. Tiansheng Electric was founded by him, Jing Dang, and Vikram together, and it held a very important place in Charan's heart. He would not allow anyone to tarnish Tiansheng Electric's reputation. He could confidently say that the quality of Tiansheng Electric products was superior to those of the same price on the market. Jing Dang and Vikram nodded repeatedly. After this matter broke out, both of them were also very angry. Tian Gay is right. If we don't expose the villain behind this, it will be difficult to solve the root problem. Damn it, how dare they tarnish our Tiansheng Electric's reputation? They're incredibly brazen. Seeing how angry the two were, Charan spoke to comfort them. Don't worry, they won't get away. He had many capable people here, and coupled with Charan's good relationship with the authorities, he believed that with the help of the intelligence agency, this matter would be resolved very quickly. Jing Dang and Vikram had never doubted Charan. Since Charan said not to worry, they both put their minds at ease. After discussing for a while, Jing Dang and Vikram went to arrange the clarification matters. Charan, on the other hand, made a phone call, asking someone for help with the investigation. Soon, clarification announcements from Tiansheng Electric appeared on various TV stations, also stating that they would definitely hold the counterfeiters accountable. As for customers who bought fake products, they didn't need to worry. Once Tiansheng Electric caught the counterfeiting factory, they would definitely compensate them for their losses. These overwhelming clarification announcements quickly spread to every city. Seeing Tiansheng Electric being so assertive, people believed them 7 or 8 tenths. Those customers who bought fake products quickly went to compare them with genuine ones, and now everything was clear. They had indeed been deceived. Meanwhile, on Charan's side, after 2 days of investigation, they finally followed the clues and found the group of people behind the counterfeiting. The electrical appliance processing factory that manufactured counterfeit goods to confuse the market and tarnish Tiansheng Electric was an old brand. Its name was Tianhong Electrical Appliance Factory. This electrical appliance factory had also experienced a period of glory a few years ago, before Tiansheng Electric became famous. However, Tiansheng Electric later rose to prominence, and Tianhong Electrical Appliance Factory, due to outdated products, saw its manufactured goods and sellable operating at a negative profit for over a year. Seeing that the factory was about to close, the factory director, Zhu Jinke, who harbored intense resentment towards Tiansheng Electric, had a wicked idea. His original plan was to steal Tiansheng Electric's core technology and spend heavily to poach technical personnel. However, employees of Tiansheng Electric Company enjoyed excellent benefits and good company prospects, so virtually no core members would leave. With the bank pressing for loan repayment, Zhu Jinke gritted his teeth and decided to manufacture counterfeit Tiansheng Electric products. Firstly, manufacturing fake goods could tarnish Tiansheng Electric's reputation, and secondly, it could quickly generate a sum of money. So, without delay, Zhu Jinke quickly had the factory begin its counterfeiting activities. He specifically ordered electrical appliance casings and packaging similar to Tiansheng Electric's. The appearance and outer packaging were imitated to 90% similarity. Then, they flowed into the market at a price lower than the genuine products. Many customers thought it was a promotional sale by Tiansheng Electric, which was why the price was reduced. Who would have thought that what they received were fakes? Upon using them, they discovered the goods were not as advertised, and many customers felt a surge of anger. They reported Tiansheng Electric for false advertising, poor product quality, and weak functionality. When this matter became public, it naturally reached the ears of Charan and others. Charan, who cannot tolerate a speck of sand in his eyes, would certainly arrange for an investigation of this matter immediately. His current influence is astonishing, and upon learning of his trouble, the intelligence agency was happy to assist in the investigation. Meanwhile, Zhu Jinke was still gloating, instructing the factory workers to work overtime to produce shoddy electrical appliances. What he didn't know was that the people coming to arrest him were already on their way. Everyone, work harder. When we're busy until the end of the month, I'll give you bonuses. He shouted in the workshop. The workers responded in unison, all quickly and earnestly returning to work. Zhu Jinke was smiling when suddenly, a group of law enforcement officers in uniform rushed in from outside. The security guards couldn't stop them and could only follow along, quickly stepping forward to report the situation to Zhu Jinke. Director, they said they're here for an inspection. I couldn't stop them. The smile on Zhu Jinke's face froze, and a flicker of panic crossed his eyes. A leading officer among the law enforcement personnel stepped forward and showed Zhu Jinke his identification. We are from the Jiang City Administration for Industry and Commerce. We received a report that you are suspected of manufacturing infringing goods and counterfeiting other product brands. Please cooperate with the investigation. Upon hearing his words, Zhu Jinke stumbled, somewhat unable to stand steadily. His face also turned pale. These law enforcement officers ignored him, spreading out to search for evidence. Zhu Jinke watched these people investigating in the factory workshop, cold sweat pouring down his body. Who reported him? He had paid all the factory workers hush money, so it was impossible for them to betray him. Zhu Jinke's mind raced, his expression dazed. More than 10 minutes later, the investigators collected enough evidence. Even in the factory warehouse, there was a batch of uncollected imitation products. Caught red-handed, Zhu Jinke was directly taken away by the law enforcement officers. Tianhong Electrical Appliance was also temporarily sealed, and the workers were temporarily sent home. Because the evidence was conclusive and undeniable, after Zhu Jinke was taken away, he could only confess his crimes under the interrogation of the law enforcement officers. After the staff obtained inside information from his mouth, they tallied it up and found that Zhu Jinke had manufactured nearly 3,000 counterfeit products during this period. Some of these counterfeit and shoddy products had already entered the market, and a small portion was currently in the warehouse of the Tianhong Electrical Appliance Factory. Zhu Jinke had profited over 100,000 yuan by illegal means during this period, a large sum. His actions had severely affected the reputation and interests of Tiansheng Electric. A few days later, Zhu Jinkai's case was handed over to the court for trial and sentencing. After the verdict was released, Chao Mayor of Jing City personally called Charan to explain the situation. Academician keen that Zhu Jinke was sentenced to 7 years and fined 100 million Chinese yuan as compensation to your Tiansheng Electric. In addition, those consumers who bought counterfeit goods will also be compensated by Tianhong Electrical Appliance Factory. After hearing Chao Mayor's words, Charan said, "These are not a problem, but he also needs to clarify the matter publicly and restore our Tiansheng Electric's good name." Chao Jiaming nodded and said, "That's only right, Academician Keen. When do you plan to arrange for Zhu Jinke to apologize to your Tiansheng Electric in front of the media and the public?" "Okay, in the next day or two. I'll arrange for someone to go over." Charan thought for a moment and said, this matter was quite urgent, as it concerned the reputation of Tiansheng Electric. Since Tiansheng Electric released the news to clarify, many people across the country were currently observing the situation. After finishing the call with Chao Mayor, Charan called Vikram and Jing Dang. The matter of manufacturing and selling counterfeit goods has been thoroughly investigated. It was a factory in Jing City named Tianhong Electrical Appliance Factory. The factory director, Zhu Jinke, has been arrested and has confessed to his crimes. The court has already tried and sentenced him. He recounted the punishment for Zhu Jinke to the two of them. Vikram and Jing Dang both showed joy after hearing it. This is truly gratifying. Daring to harbor ill intentions and target our Tiansheng Electric, he deserves it. Although punishment has been meted out, this matter has still seriously affected our company's reputation. I plan to arrange for television stations and newspapers to interview Zhu Jinke in prison, so he can clarify publicly and apologize to our Tiansheng Electric, Charan said. Additionally, we also need to make a gesture to the consumers who bought these counterfeit goods. Tiange, tell us. Jing Dang waited for the rest. Charan said, consumers who bought counterfeit goods did so because of Tiansheng Electric's reputation. Although we are not primarily responsible for this deception, it was due to our negligence in not properly supervising the market. How about this, we will give each customer who bought counterfeit goods a free small home appliance. Charan could afford to give away over 2,000 small home appliances, mainly to build momentum for Tiansheng Electric. After this matter fermented, it would surely rapidly expand Tiansheng Electric's visibility. This expenditure would be considered as paying for advertising. Great, Tiange, that's a good idea. Our Tiansheng Electric really needs to restore its reputation. Vikram quickly praised him. Then I'll leave this matter to you two. Charan made the decision. After Jing Dang and Vikram left, they immediately began to act. Soon, news of Zhu Jinkai's apology and admission of guilt appeared on major television stations and in newspapers. In the news, he explained the situation and repented that he should not have been greedy for money and should not have manufactured and sold counterfeit and shoddy products. He should not have infringed upon the reputation of Tiansheng Electric and the rights of consumers. He was willing to compensate Tiansheng Electric and all consumers. After Zhu Jinke finished apologizing, Chao King, the head of Tiansheng Electric, came out and said, since its inception, our Tiansheng Electric company has always upheld the philosophy of making good electrical appliances. Our products are of good quality, durable, technologically advanced, and cost-effective. I can put my chest and guarantee the quality to everyone. I believe customers who have used our electrical appliances are also clear in their hearts that there is nothing to criticize about the quality of our products. For consumers who purchased counterfeit and shoddy products this time, our Tiansheng Electric will not betray your trust and support. Tiansheng Electric will give everyone a free 3L rice cooker. Everyone is welcome to register and collect it at our official sales stores in major cities. Those customers who bought counterfeit goods had been watching and waiting for an explanation since Tiansheng Electric began to clarify the situation. Now that the counterfeiters have been caught, they will be compensated for their losses. Everyone thought it would end like this. Unexpectedly, Tiansheng Electric gave them a big surprise. Who wouldn't be happy to get a free rice cooker? Originally, they had some minor complaints about Tiansheng Electric, but now they have directly transformed into loyal fans of Tiansheng Electric. Many people are saying that they will only buy appliances from Tiansheng Electric in the future. Some people are even voluntarily popularizing Tiansheng Electric's anti-counterfeiting logo to help everyone recognize genuine products when shopping. Once someone actually received a free rice cooker, their admiration for Tiansheng Electric grew even stronger. Soon, a wave of Tiansheng Electric fever swept across the country. Charan seized the opportunity and had Chao King launch another wave of marketing activities. As Tiansheng Electric's popularity grew, branch factories were built in major first-tier cities. The Tiansheng Electric trend also blew abroad. Gradually, they even received orders from many Southeast Asian countries. It can be said that this wave of advertising was not a loss. 2 months later, Fu Garden. Priya was 9 months pregnant, and because she was carrying twins, her belly was much bigger than that of an average pregnant woman. Charan felt a little frightened every day when he looked at her big belly. Even though it was not yet her due date, he was starting to get anxious. Although the new Grade A tertiary hospital under construction, Tiantai Hospital, has officially opened to receive patients, and the medical equipment, facilities, and physician team resources inside are top-notch, Charan is still extremely worried. Carrying twins is much more dangerous than carrying a single child. At this moment, he was helping Priya take a walk in the garden. Priya would be slightly out of breath after walking for a while. Seeing that she was tired from walking, Charan helped her sit down on a stone chair to rest. Wenlijun walked over from a distance, holding Kiran's hand in one hand and carrying a fruit plate in the other. She placed the fruit plate on the stone table and invited Charan and Priya to eat. She had rushed over yesterday. Priya was carrying twins, and the doctor said that the chances of premature birth were very high. Wenlijun couldn't feel at ease in Beijing, so she rushed over early to be with her daughter. As for the other members of the Du family, they would have to wait until Priya gave birth before rushing over. After all, they all have jobs and positions and cannot take a long vacation like Wenlijun. Dad, little Kiran ran into Charan's arms, climbed onto his lap, and reached for the fork in the fruit plate. Charan was afraid that she would poke herself, so he reached out and picked up the fork to feed little Kiran. The little one was not afraid of soreness and didn't even blink when eating blueberries and kiwis. Priya was afraid of soreness, so she ate some red grapes. These fruits were all transported from the south. Most varieties cannot be grown in the north, and if you want to eat them, they can only be transported over long distances. The three of them chatted while eating the fruit plate. While they were chatting, Priya suddenly exclaimed and put down the red grapes in her hand. Charan immediately looked over with a nervous expression. Tian, what's wrong? Priya reached out and rubbed a certain part of her abdomen, smiling embarrassedly. The little one kicked too hard just now, it hurt a little. Charan and Wenlijun breathed a sigh of relief when they heard her say this. The little one is not good, I'll help you teach him a lesson after he is born. Charan's eyes were full of doting. Priya and Wenlijun couldn't help but laugh when they heard him say this. The few people chatted for a while in front of the stone table. As night fell, the sky gradually darkened. Everyone prepared to return to their rooms to rest. Wenlijun wanted to make Charan and Priya relax, so she took the initiative to offer to help take care of Kiran at night. Little Kiran was also very close to her grandmother and was very willing to sleep with her grandmother. Since they were both willing, Charan and Priya naturally had no objections. After helping Priya back to the room, Charan prepared pajamas for his wife, put warm water for his wife, and took care of her bathing. Now that Priya's body was bulky, and the bathroom was relatively slippery, Charan was not at ease letting her take a bath alone anyway. When bathing his wife, touching her smooth and fair skin, and looking down at the intoxicating scenery, Charan inevitably felt a little restless. It was just that it was now the late stage of pregnancy, and he didn't dare to mess around at all. Priya was gentle and considerate. Seeing that Charan was enduring too much, she endured her shyness and helped him relieve himself in other ways. Charan was slightly satisfied and served his wife even more diligently, busy before and after, helping his wife wipe her body and wash her hair. After the two of them finished washing, Charan helped Priya put on dry pajamas and helped her walk back to the bedroom. Helping Priya sit down in front of the dressing mirror, Charan first helped her wipe the moisture from her hair and then took out a hair dryer to help Priya dry her hair. Priya had a head of beautiful hair that reached her waist. Because she had been using Eren Daily Chemicals shampoo and conditioner, her hair was dark and beautiful. At this time, under the light, it looked smooth and soft and felt as slippery as satin. Seeing Charan fondling her long hair, a sly look appeared in Priya's eyes. Husband, it's inconvenient to keep long hair during confinement, why not cut it short? Charan shook his head quickly when he heard this and said, don't cut it short, I'll help you take care of it, wife. Your hair is all beautiful, I can't bear it. Priya also liked long flowing hair. She was just teasing Charan when she said this. In the past 2 years, except for regular trimming of the ends, Priya had not cut her hair short for a long time. Hearing Charan's words, she quickly nodded with a smile. Okay, then I'll listen to you. I still remember when she was a child, she had a head of long hair. After a few years, she would be sold to hair collectors by her adoptive mother, Li Shukan. The black-hearted merchants who collected hair were ruthless and almost cut the hair close to the scalp when cutting it. After cutting off her long hair, she instantly became a tomboy. Priya remembered very clearly how sad she was when she sold her long hair for the first time. Later, she accepted reality more calmly. But the matter of cutting her hair still left some shadows in her heart, making her resist short hair from the bottom of her heart. Now, following Charan, her life is getting better and better and her beautiful hair is becoming more and more shiny. Priya also loves this long hair very much. After Charan helped her dry her hair, he also helped his wife apply hair care essential oil. After finishing, he helped Priya and asked her to go to bed and rest first. As for Charan, after washing his hands, he took out the olive oil specially for pregnant women and applied it to Priya's abdomen. Carrying twins increases the abdomen too much. If you don't take good care of it, very serious stretch marks will appear on the abdomen, affecting the beauty of the skin. Charan didn't mind, but he was afraid that Priya would be sad. He knew how much his wife loved beauty, so he would naturally help her maintain it. This bottle of olive oil had been added with lukewarm water, so the effect would be better. Currently, Priya's abdomen has not shown too obvious stretch marks. There are only some inconspicuous fine lines. After giving birth, with good maintenance, it can be slowly eliminated. Charan poured the olive oil into his palm first, rubbed it in his palm a few times, and then gently applied it to Priya's abdomen. The abdomen was covered with oil, looking bulging, white and bright, as tempting as white and tender glutinous rice balls. Charan couldn't help but lower his head and kiss it several times. The soft and elastic touch made him very fond of it. It's so itchy. Priya blinked her eyes and quickly reached out to block it. Seeing this, Charan smiled and didn't continue kissing. After applying the olive oil, the couple lay down to rest. Charan habitually looked at the small bed and found that Kiran was not there. Only then did he remember that his mother-in-law was sleeping with her in her arms. He shook his head with a smile, hugged Priya, and prepared to sleep. Late at night, after turning off the lights, the couple quickly fell asleep. The next morning, after getting up and washing, Priya went to the toilet. After coming back, she told Charan that she had seen blood. Charan's heart suddenly became tense. Seeing blood, this means she's about to give birth. It was so much earlier. He quickly called butler Wang and notified him to start preparing the supplies for going to the hospital to await delivery. Tiantai Hospital. This is a grade A tertiary hospital built by Charan in Huangnan County. All the medical equipment inside is currently the most advanced on the market, produced by Charan in collaboration with Boenshengwu Biotechnology Company. In addition to having advanced medical equipment and powerful pharmaceutical suppliers, the doctors in each department are also industry elites recruited by Charan with heavy investments from both domestic and international sources. At this moment, Priya was helped to complete her examination and was waiting for the doctor's diagnosis. After reviewing the examination report, Zhang Yi, the director of obstetrics and gynecology, respectfully said to Charan and Priya, "Mr. Keen, Madam is indeed going into labor early. Currently, her condition is good, and she can have a natural birth. Now, we just need to patiently wait for her cervix to dilate, and then she can enter the delivery room." Charan immediately became nervous upon hearing this, while Priya was a bit calmer. After giving birth to Kiran, she had some experience, after all, and was much more composed than when she gave birth to her first child. Moreover, since cultivating internal strength, Priya felt her physical fitness had greatly improved. After giving a few instructions, Zhang Yi left first. Charan helped Priya walk around the room. Wenlijun sat on the sofa, helping little Kiran build a block castle. Not long after, Pavani, Jingdang and Vikram, who had received the news, all came with their families. Seeing that Priya was in good spirits, able to talk and laugh, everyone felt a little relieved. The VIP ward was a suite with good sound insulation, so there was no need to worry about disturbing other patients. Everyone chatted on the living room sofa, waiting with Priya. 2 hours later, the contractions gradually intensified and beads of sweat appeared on Priya's forehead. Seeing her discomfort, Charan quickly called a doctor to examine her. After the examination, the doctor told them to wait patiently a bit longer. After all, if the cervix wasn't dilated, entering the delivery room prematurely would only increase the anxiety of the pregnant woman. Charan had no choice but to help Priya return to the ward, walking for a while and resting for a while. Around noon, Charan, taking advantage of a lull in Priya's contractions, quickly fed her some noodles. While eating, Priya could no longer bear it and cried out in pain. Seeing fine beads of sweat on her forehead and her pained expression, Charan immediately panicked. He quickly called the doctor to check the situation. This time, after the doctor's examination, she said it was time to enter the delivery room. Priya was pushed into the delivery room by the nurses, while Charan and the others waited anxiously outside the door. Listening to the painful groans from inside, Charan's face turned pale with fright. Pavani spoke up to comfort him, "Sio Tian, don't worry. Tian's examination results are normal. She will definitely give birth to both babies safely. Wen Lijun also echoed, yes, it will definitely go smoothly. Charan nodded distractedly, his entire mind focused on the delivery room. His hearing was excellent now, allowing him to clearly hear Priya's cries of pain, one after another. Although he couldn't take her place in enduring this pain, his heart was tightly clenched and this feeling was also difficult to bear. More than 20 minutes later, a loud cry of a baby suddenly came from the delivery room. Charan and the others waiting outside showed joy on their faces when they heard it. This was the first of the twin babies born. Everyone's spirits lifted considerably. After another 10 minutes or so, the second baby's cry also sounded, this one not as loud as the first, but rather soft and delicate, seeming to carry a hint of grievance. Hearing that both children had been born, Charan's heart relaxed slightly. He only prayed now that Priya would be safe and sound. Not long after, the delivery room door opened, and two nurses carrying babies walked out. Congratulations, Mr. Keen and Madam. Madam gave birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, a boy and a girl. The nurse came forward with the babies, congratulating Charan with a smile. Charan glanced at the two children, suppressed the joy in his heart, and first asked about Priya's condition. How is Madam doing? One of the nurses quickly replied, Mr. Keen, rest assured, Madam is in good condition and will be out of the delivery room after a short observation. Upon hearing this, Charan's heart finally settled down. He smiled and took the baby from the nurse's arms, lowering his head to look at the little infant in his embrace. The little infant in his arms had slightly reddish skin, although premature, there were no wrinkles and the skin was quite smooth. Charan asked, is this the elder brother or the younger sister? The nurse beside him said, the one wrapped in a blue blanket is the elder brother and the one in pink is the younger sister. Charan looked at the color of the blanket in his arms, it was pink, so this was his little daughter. Pavani, on the other hand, was helping to hold the second baby. Everyone looked at the two adorable little babies, their faces filled with smiles. After chatting about the dragon and phoenix twins for a while, Priya was pushed out of the delivery room by the nurses. Charan quickly handed his daughter in his arms to others to care for. He then followed the gurney, concerned about Priya. Wife, you worked hard. He held Priya's hand, his eyes full of tenderness. Priya's face was a bit pale, her hair disheveled and soaked with sweat, but her spirits were quite good. Hearing that she had given birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, a brother and sister, she was also very happy. It was just that giving birth had consumed too much energy, so her voice was inevitably a bit weak and powerless. I'm fine, husband, don't worry. Upon reaching the ward, Charan bent down, lifted Priya from the gurney and gently placed her on the bed. After covering her with the blanket, Charan took a towel and meticulously helped Priya wipe away her sweat and fed her water. Everyone came to express their concern to Priya, and when asked about the names of the dragon and phoenix twins, a smile appeared on Charan's face. Tian and I discussed the names for the children. The elder brother will be called Keen Yujo and the younger sister Keen Kexen. Keen Yujo, Keen Kexen, that sounds good. Tian Gay and sister-in-law are really good at naming. Jing Dong's face showed an expression of admiration. Jojo, Kexen, you have names now. When Lijun smiled and reached out to touch the little face of the second baby in her arms. Priya lay on the bed, seeing this lively and warm scene, her eyes filled with smiles. With the successful delivery of the dragon and phoenix twins and Priya's safety, Charan was in a particularly good mood and quickly notified his relatives. The Su family arrived first, the maternal grandfather, maternal grandmother, and 3 uncles and aunts all came to visit. Keen Chang's family also rushed over after receiving the news. The ward was incredibly lively, and everyone was overjoyed looking at the pair of dragon and phoenix twins. When K. Ran was born, his daughter was almost swapped by bad people, which left a profound lesson for Charan. Therefore, when it came to having a second child, Charan took full control of the entire hospital. Plainclothes bodyguards arranged by Charan were stationed in every corner, guarding strictly. In the afternoon, old Master Du Zhengting and others from Beijing rushed over. Hearing that Priya had given birth to a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, everyone in the Du family was very happy. Although no one had a preference for boys over girls, which family wouldn't want both a son and a daughter? Priya had excellent physical fitness, and on the second day after giving birth to the twin babies, she was able to be discharged from the hospital and return home to recuperate. She could even get out of bed and walk around freely. Of course, the reason for her robust health was inseparable from her internal strength cultivation and frequent consumption of Lingquan water. Returning to Fuyong also made things more convenient for everyone. After all, so many people couldn't all stay in the hospital. On the third day after the twin babies were born, a Wash 3 banquet was held for them at Fuyong. The banquet didn't invite too many guests, it was limited to people close to Charan and Priya. This included the Su family, the Du family, the Jiangdan family, the Vikram family, the Pavani family and the Qincheng family. After the banquet, all the Du family members except Wen Lijun prepared to return to Beijing. Du Zhengting was the commander of the Beijing military region and could not be away for too long. Du Yanlin was the chief surgeon at Beijing First People's Hospital and had many surgeries to perform, so he couldn't take a long leave. His wife, Li Wangqing, was even busier. Bowen Biomedical was growing larger and larger with branch factories in major first-tier cities. Currently, over 70% of hospitals nationwide had a cooperative relationship with Bowen Biomedical. Bowen Biomedical could be said to be raking in money. Of course, Charan also received a substantial amount of money. As for Du Yanshu, the second son of the Du family, he had achieved remarkable feats over the past year, being promoted from regimental commander to division commander. As a division commander, his scope of work also expanded. As for Gu Qingcheng, she was now pregnant with her second child and lived with Du Yanshu as a military spouse, spending her days taking care of the child and chatting with other military wives in Thay family compound, living a relaxed and comfortable life. They all had their respective jobs and lives, so they couldn't stay in Huangnan County for long. Wen Lijun, just like with the first child, planned to stay and take care of Priya until she finished her confinement period before leaving. After the Du family left, Charan stayed at home, meticulously caring for Priya and the children. Currently, little Kiran was only a little over 1 year and 2 months old, still small and requiring constant care. The twin babies had just been born and needed even more attention, and Priya was also cared for by Charan with utmost thoughtfulness. With Wen Lijun there, she helped take care of Kiran at night, making things much easier for Charan. Every day, serving his wife during her confinement and looking after 3 children, Charan felt that such a life was busy and fulfilling. Because he felt sorry for Priya, who was working so hard to feed 2 children, and was afraid of her body's nutrition and blood chi becoming depleted, the twin babies were fed formula milk from birth. To ensure the safety of the formula milk, Charan even acquired a ranch in Inner Mongolia, raising his own dairy cows to produce dairy products. The formula milk drunk by the twin babies and the milk tablets and cheese products eaten by little Kiran all came from this ranch. At this moment, Charan was holding Yujo, the male twin, and feeding his son milk. Boys' appetites were indeed larger than girls'. Watching the little guy gulping down the formula with a satisfied look, Charan couldn't help but curve his eyes. Priya was leaning against the headboard, holding her daughter Kexan in her arms. After Charan finished feeding his son and burping the little one, he placed him on the small bed. The little guy, full and content, was happily playing by himself, clutching his small fists. Butler Wang hurried in from outside the courtyard to report the situation to Charan. "Sir, someone tried to assassinate you a short while ago, but they were apprehended before they could even get close to Fuyung." Oh, upon hearing Butler Wang's words, Charan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Butler Wang reported the detailed situation to Charan. "The person attempting to approach Fuyung to assassinate you, sir, is an international gold medal assassin, somewhat famous in Southeast Asia, with the title, Red Wolf. Red Wolf is skilled in disguise and shooting, a sniper and sharpshooter with ultra-long-range shooting capabilities. He has successfully assassinated foreign dignitaries, heads of prestigious families, and clan leaders before, and he holds a place on the assassin rankings. Currently, the bounty on your head, sir, ranks 8th on the international kill list, with a bounty amount of $200 million. Many international mercenaries and gold medal assassins want to get this generous bounty, and Red Wolf is one of them. However, many assassins and organizations, after investigation, had to abandon this mission. Only Red Wolf firmly believed that with his assassination skills and foolproof marksmanship, he could definitely successfully assassinate Charan from outside Fuyung. For this, he secretly infiltrated the country, disguised as a tourist, came to Huangnan County and approached Fuyung. He lurked around Fuyung for several days, finding an excellent sniping location. If Charan were to come out of the Meh Gate, this position would definitely allow him to be shot. However, what Red Wolf never expected was that as soon as he set up his sniper rifle, a group of people suddenly rushed out from behind him. With punches and kicks, they quickly beat Red Wolf, who cried out in pain repeatedly. The bewildered Red Wolf had no idea why he was captured before he even started his operation. He clearly chose an extremely hidden location, and no one would notice this corner. He couldn't even figure out why he failed. After capturing Red Wolf, the members of the Dark Guard team subjected him to severe torture and interrogation, and after several rounds of brutal questioning, Red Wolf finally confessed honestly. He said he was an international assassin who came to assassinate Charan for the bounty. As for the employer, Red Wolf also didn't know who it was. Because the bounty list was posted by an intermediary platform, they extracted commissions from assassins and employers. Employers posted tasks and paid deposits, and assassins accepted tasks and returned to claim the bounty. Assassins and employers didn't need to contact each other, everything was handled by the platform. As for this platform, it was rumored to be secretly supported and founded by the Rothschild family abroad, but whether the source of information was true or false was unknown. After the Dark Guard team clarified the interrogation, they immediately reported it to Butler Wang. Butler Wang then explained the matter to Charan. After listening, Charan couldn't help but chuckle twice. Red Wolf certainly didn't know why he failed. It was simply because within a few kilometers around Fuyung, there were numerous plainclothes Dark Guards hidden. Most of these Dark Guards were specially trained personnel. They were familiar with all assassination and disguise methods. They usually disguised themselves as residents, passers-by, or vendors living near Fuyung. In reality, someone was constantly and closely guarding Fuyung. This was the security guarantee Charan received as a vital national talent. If Red Wolf wanted to assassinate him, he would have to possess the ability to become invisible and silently sneak into Fuyung. And this was clearly impossible, so Red Wolf was captured. Hand this assassin over to Chen Ling for disposal. Charan thought for a moment and said to Butler Wang. Yes, sir. Butler Wang responded and quickly turned to leave. However, not long after, Butler Wang hurried back to Charan. His expression was somewhat grim. What's wrong? Charan, seeing his unusual expression, took the initiative to ask. Sir, a moment ago, a woman in her 30s, holding an infant, ran to the entrance of Fuyung and knelt, begging us to take in her child. Our bodyguards were about to pull the woman away immediately when, unexpectedly, she suddenly foamed at the mouth and died on the spot. Upon hearing Butler Wang's report, Charan couldn't help but raise an eyebrow slightly. Investigate thoroughly and see if there's any conspiracy behind this matter. Butler Wang quickly nodded. Understood, sir, I'll arrange it immediately. Charan waved his hand and Butler Wang left. He discussed it with Priya for a few moments, and they also made some conjectures. The two even felt that someone was behind a conspiracy, trying to harm Charan. However, when Butler Wang delivered the investigation results to Charan, Charan was somewhat speechless. The woman who died at the entrance of Fuyung while holding a child was named Chen Shuchun, 29 years old this year. Her home was in a small alley behind the street across from Fuyung. Her husband, Wu Jing, was a construction worker who worked with a construction team in the county town. Wu Jing was an alcoholic with a violent temper, often beating or scolding Chen Shuchun after getting drunk. Chen Shuchun was beaten during her previous pregnancy, suffered a miscarriage, and had a massive hemorrhage after being sent to the hospital, almost losing her life. It was several years later that she finally recovered her health. During her pregnancy, she cautiously served Wu Jing, coaxing him and indulging him. Finally, after 10 months of pregnancy, she gave birth to a daughter, but the child she gave birth to was diagnosed with congenital leukemia. The infant had petechiae, hepatosplenomegaly, and difficulty breathing. In this situation, the doctor said that if not treated in time, the child might die of respiratory failure within days to months. However, treating the child required a large sum of money. Wu Jing had a severe preference for sons over daughters, and he already felt that Chen Shuchun had given him a money-losing product, so he disliked his daughter immensely. Seeing his daughter suffering from a serious illness, he even refused to spend money to treat her. Chen Shuchun was different. After 10 months of pregnancy, the child was flesh and blood from her body. Despite her weakness after giving birth, she carried the child and ran around, hoping to borrow money for her child's medical treatment. However, when relatives heard that the child's illness was severe and required a lot of money, and that her husband was unwilling to treat her, most people naturally refused to lend her money. Chen Shuchun sought help everywhere without hope. Seeing her child facing the threat of death at any moment, she felt despair. Thinking of the grievances and pain she had endured over the years, in her sorrow and helplessness, she bought rat poison, preparing to commit suicide by poisoning. Chen Shuchun didn't want to watch her child die in front of her, unable to do anything. If she died before her child, she wouldn't have to witness the child's painful death. However, after taking the rat poison, she heard her child's cries and felt some regret. Before she died, she should at least have settled her child first, otherwise, her child would starve, thirst, or die from illness. Her husband was unreliable, and relatives would not take on the sick child. After much thought, Chen Shuchun set her sights on Fuyung. She knew that Fuyung was home to prominent figures, either wealthy or noble. This family was the richest in Huang'an County, and bodyguards accompanied them everywhere. If she entrusted her child before dying, she hoped that the owner of Fuyung would be benevolent and at least help her arrange her daughter properly. It would be even better if they could fund her daughter's medical treatment. She left a suicide note, pouring out all her guilt and helplessness. In her letter, she said that if Fuyung was willing to take in her daughter, Chen Shuchun would be willing to repay them in her next life, even as an ox or a horse. Charan and Priya felt a complicated mix of emotions after reading the suicide note left by Chen Shuchun. They say that a pitiable person must have something detestable about them, and this statement is absolutely true. Her final entrustment of her child, before anyone could even agree, ended with her death. The implication of moral blackmail was strong. But the person was already dead, and blaming her was useless. The issue of her daughter's custody was indeed a big problem. According to what Chen Shuchun wrote in her letter, her husband had no affection for this daughter and only saw her as a burden. If this child was sent back, there would certainly be no good outcome. She might even die within a few days. Seeing the infant girl, who was not yet a month old, and noticing her thin and weak appearance, Charan and Priya still felt a touch of compassion. This child was born around the same time as the dragon and phoenix twins, but their circumstances were poles apart. Thinking that it would be an act of accumulating good fortune for the children, Charan pondered for a long time before deciding to establish a welfare institution in Huang'an County to rescue orphans without parents and abandoned children. When one has the ability, helping those in need around them not only earns a good reputation but also brings a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. Moreover, for the current Charan, it was merely a trivial matter. They say that when poor, one should care for oneself, and when rich, one should help the world. The current Charan was able to achieve this point. He arranged for the infant to be sent to Tiantai Hospital for treatment first, and then Charan called Li County Magistrate. He explained in detail to Li Changming what had happened to Charan, and then stated that he was willing to fund the establishment of a welfare institution in Huang'an County, specifically to help helpless elderly people and children. Li Changming was overjoyed after hearing Charan's words and also expressed sincere admiration for Charan. Academician Keen has great love in his heart and is a role model we should learn from. I will personally oversee the establishment of this matter, Academician Keen, rest assured. Mum, Charan nodded, paused, and continued. Guo Jiying's domestic violence against Chen Shuchun, driving his wife to death, and his refusal to raise and care for the child, has already constituted a criminal act. Li County Magistrate, please handle this matter as well. Li Changming quickly responded, Academician Keen, rest assured, the law is just and strict. Since he violated the law, he will be severely punished by laws and regulations. After they ended their call, Li Changming immediately organized a meeting with the county leaders. On one hand, they selected the location for the welfare institution and made plans. On the other hand, he arranged for people to go to Charan's site to take away Chen Shuchun's body and send it to Guo Jiying's home. Guo Jiying was startled when he saw Chen Shuchun's body. He hadn't expected that the woman who ran out in the morning would return as a cold corpse. He didn't feel much sadness, but rather more annoyance. Chen Shuchun was dead. Who would serve him now? Who would wash his clothes, cook his meals, and bear his children? Marrying another wife would cost a lot of money. Seeing Chen Shuchun returned alone, and learning that she had committed suicide by poisoning, Guo Jiying didn't even ask about his daughter's whereabouts. Because he was convinced that his daughter must have died from illness, which was why Chen Shuchun committed suicide. After Guo Jiying finished handling Chen Shuchun's funeral, the police came and took him away for interrogation. His domestic violence and abandonment charges were quickly confirmed, and he was sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison. If the deceased Chen Shuchun knew that her daughter was saved and that her abusive husband was sentenced, she would probably rest in peace in the underworld. With Charan's funding and under the accelerated arrangements of Li Changming and other county leaders, the welfare institution was quickly established. Charan personally named the welfare institution Angel Welfare Institution. The welfare institution officially began to take in lonely elderly people and abandoned children. Huang'an County, Chengnan Prison. Du Dehai and Li Shukan walked out of the prison, looked at the white sky outside, and couldn't help but hug each other and cry bitterly. It had been more than 2 years. They had diligently served their sentences in prison, earning a chance for commutation, and finally emerged from that dreadful place. Heaven knew how agonizing their lives had been since they were arrested. I wonder how our son is doing now. Has he gotten married? Du Dehai wiped his nose, a hint of expectation in his eyes. I don't know. Our son hasn't even visited us in prison. Li Shukan had some complaints about this. While she and Du Dehai were in prison for over 2 years, it was one thing that their adopted daughter, Priya, hadn't visited them, but their biological son, Kiran, hadn't come either. This made her feel very upset. Won't we know if we go home and see? Du Dehai was a bit impatient. Let's go, let's head back to Du Family Village. The two left Nanchang prison and hurried towards Du Family Village. Along the way, Du Dehai and Li Shukan were greatly shocked by the changes in Huang'an County. Inside the county town, the roads were wide, with tall buildings on both sides. The well-planned buildings looked neat and orderly, and the roadside greenery was pleasing to the eye. Was this still the dilapidated small county town they remembered? The south side of the city used to be very remote and poor. But now, a new industrial park had been built here, with many factories and dormitory buildings. As Du Dehai and Li Shuken passed by, they saw the names of many factories. There were too many to count, such as Yonghe Garment Factory, Shuli Shoe Factory, Changming Plastic Factory, Wanhua Food Factory, and so on. The main road was bustling with traffic, filled with many vehicles. There were cars, vans, small trucks, and large trucks, as well as many pedestrians on motorcycles and bicycles. Du Dehai and Li Shuken were extremely envious. Hwanghan County had developed so well now. There were so many rich people who drove cars. The two wandered around here for most of the day, almost getting lost and unable to find their way home. Finally, they asked for directions as they walked and returned to Du Family Village after much hardship. When they returned to Du Family Village, Du Dehai and Li Shuken almost didn't recognize their own village. They saw that every household in the village had built new houses with blue bricks and large tiles, and some even had multi-story buildings. Even concrete roads had been built in the village. Heavens, everyone here must have made a fortune. The two followed their memory to find their own home. However, looking at the dilapidated tiled houses, the collapsed courtyard wall, and the overgrown yard in front of them, Du Dehai and Li Shuken felt a sense of disbelief. Why had everyone else built new houses, while their home had fallen into such disrepair? Where was their son? Had Kiran bought a new house or built a new one elsewhere? Du Dehai and Li Shuken felt a glimmer of hope. They quickly went to their neighbor's house to knock on the door, hoping to inquire about Kiran. After knocking, the next door neighbor quickly opened the door. The person who opened the door was their neighbor, Wang Shen. After seeing Du Dehai and Li Shuken, Wang Shen scrutinized them for a few moments before recognizing them. Are you Dehai, Shuken? Yes, it's us, Sister Wang, you've put on weight now. Seeing Wang Shen's plump appearance, Du Dehai and Li Shuken almost didn't recognize her either. Yes, now I just take care of my grandson at home, no need to work in the fields, enjoying life. Did you two just get out of prison? Wang Shen asked with a smile. Yes, Du Dehai scratched his bald head, answering somewhat awkwardly. Li Shuken's face also flushed red. Since you are out, you should turn over a new leaf and live a good life. Look, every household in our village has built new houses now. Wang Shen had been neighbors with the Du family for many years, so there was still some old affection. Sister Wang, why has our village changed so much? Has everyone gotten rich? Du Dehai asked the doubt in his heart. Seeing the confusion on their faces, Wang Shen began to explain to them. You two have been in prison for over 2 years, so you probably don't know about the development outside, right? Come into the house and sit down with me, I'll tell you. Oh, okay, thank you, Sister Wang. Li Shuken and Du Dehai exchanged glances, and the two followed Wang Shen into the yard. As soon as they entered the yard, they looked around and found that Wang Shen's house had changed dramatically. The yard had a concrete floor, and the house was a newly built blue brick and large tiled house. Upon entering the Meh hall, seeing the television, refrigerator, and rosewood furniture placed in the room, Du Dehai and Li Shuken's eyes were filled with envy. Wang Shen's family used to be poorer than theirs, living in destitution. Unexpectedly, 2 years later, Wang Shen's family had not only built a new house but also bought a television and other appliances. The two suppressed their doubts and sat down at Wang Shen's invitation. After pouring them tea, Wang Shen sat down on a chair opposite them. You two just came out of prison, so it's no wonder you are uninformed. Hwanghan County has developed very quickly in the past 2 years. Many industrial parks have been built in the county town, attracting investment, and now many wealthy businessmen are coming here to open factories. Did you see it when you passed the village entrance? Now those lands are planted with greenhouse vegetables. Some are contracted and planted by villagers themselves, but most people have leased out their land and gone to the county town to work in factories. Now there are many factories right at our doorstep, making it much easier for everyone to find jobs. Working in a factory provides stable wages, which is much more profitable than farming. My son and daughter-in-law work outside, and I help them take care of the children at home. Our family can earn several thousand yuan a year. Seeing Wang Shen's joyful expression, Li Shuken and Du Dehai were truly envious. After understanding the changes of the past 2 years, they wanted to know Kiran's current whereabouts. Li Shuken then eagerly asked Wang Shen, Sister Wang, do you know where our Siole is? Wang Shen's smile stiffened slightly when she heard her mention Kiran. She didn't have a good impression of Kiran. During the time Du Dehai and Li Shuken were first in prison, Kiran often stole chickens and dogs in the village. Even Wang Shen's family was frequently freeloaded upon, and eventually, fed up, Wang Shen's son forcibly drove Kiran away. A grown man with hands and feet, who doesn't work to earn a living but constantly freeloads off neighbors, no one can stand that. Your son seems to have committed a crime and was arrested and sent to prison. I'm not entirely sure what it was for, but you two can go ask the village chief for more information. What? Our CO Lei was also arrested. Du Dehai sprang up from his chair, looking extremely shocked. Li Shuken, who was drinking water from a cup, almost choked on her water at that moment. She coughed for a long time before recovering. Seeing that Wang Shen didn't seem to be joking, Li Shuken and Du Dehai's hearts sank to the bottom. Du Dehai and Li Shuken arrived at the village chief's house. They asked the village chief about Kiran's situation. The village chief began, after Kiran was arrested, a document was sent from above explaining the situation, and that's when we found out. He committed serious crimes like kidnapping, extortion, and intentional injury and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Hearing the village chief's words, Du Dehai and Li Shuken's faces turned pale. How could it have come to this? How could Kiran possibly commit such a grave crime? They knew their son best. At most, Kiran would steal chickens and dogs. How could he have such great courage? When they learned that Kiran was also imprisoned in Nanchang prison, Li Shuken and Du Dehai felt like dying. They were actually imprisoned in the same place as their own son, yet they had never met. The two of them wanted to find Kiran to clarify the situation, longing to see their son. So, the two who had just been released from prison and returned home, hurriedly rushed back to the county town. Upon returning to Nanchang prison, they applied to the guards to see Kiran. The two waited in the visiting room. Soon, Kiran was brought in by two guards. Seeing her son dressed in a prison uniform, Li Shuken's eyes immediately reddened. She looked at Kiran with a pained expression, unable to help but cry, CO Lei, how did you end up arrested here too? You are so foolish, how could you commit such a serious crime? What are your father and I going to do now? Du Dehai frowned deeply, also deeply worried. Kiran saw Li Shuken and Du Dehai, and a joyful expression appeared on his face. Mom, Dad, why are you here? Our sentences expired, so we were released, Li Shuken said, covering her mouth and sobbing. CO Lei, what were you thinking? How could you do something like kidnapping and extortion? Du Dehai couldn't help but ask. Hatred flashed in Kiran's eyes as he recounted to Du Dehai and Li Shuken how he ended up there. Charan and Priya are living better and better now, but they weren't even willing to lend a hand. When they saw I owed so much gambling debt, they weren't willing to help me pay it back, and I had a leg broken. Kiran said bitterly, Mom, Dad, do you know how difficult that time was for me? If I hadn't been desperate, how would I have thought of kidnapping Charan for ransom? They forced me. Charan and Priya are the culprits. Kiran roared, his emotions agitated. Sentenced to life imprisonment, he hated Charan and Priya to the bone. Charan and Priya were living so well, what was wrong with supporting him? They had to push him to this point, it was utterly hateful. What? The person you kidnapped and extorted was Charan and Priya. Du Dehai and Li Shuken were stunned simultaneously. The two hadn't expected that Kiran's arrest would be related to Charan and them. It's all their fault. Kiran's eyes were filled with resentment, and he reached out to grasp Li Shuken's hand, pleading, Mom, Dad, I became so miserable all because of them. You must avenge me. Avenge. Du Dehai and Li Shuken exchanged glances, hesitation on their faces. Son, if what you say is true, Charan now has bodyguards protecting him wherever he goes. How could we possibly touch them? I don't care. In short, you must find every way to avenge me, otherwise, I won't rest even if I die. Kiran gritted his teeth and said, I even suspect that your arrests and imprisonment were also caused by Charan and Priya. How could our family just happen to pick up that antique? How could it be such a coincidence that someone came to our house to search? I suspect it was a conspiracy against our family. Li Shuken and Du Dehai were stunned. Regarding the hidden antique, the two of them indeed felt wronged. But caught red-handed, the two couldn't explain themselves. The antique was indeed picked up by them and hidden by them. There was no way to defend themselves. Now hearing that the incident back then might have been a conspiracy and related to Charan and Priya, the two felt a chill. If it really was Charan and Priya who did it, then for them to put so much effort into dealing with them, it would be too terrifying. The two exchanged glances, feeling that this matter should not be delved into. Li Shuken looked at Kiran with red eyes. Son, is there really no other way? Just thinking that you'll be in prison for a lifetime, Mom's heart feels like it's being pricked by needles. As Li Shuken spoke, she couldn't help but wipe away tears. My life is over. Kiran was unwilling, and his face showed dejection. Du Dehai and Li Shuken talked with him for a long time, until the guards urged them, and then the few separated. After Li Shuken and Du Dehai walked out of the prison, the two felt somewhat lost about their future direction. Now that their son was sentenced to life imprisonment, what were the two of them going to do from now on? Go find Priya, go find her. Li Shuken clenched her fists and said through gritted teeth, "Are you crazy? Do you really want to go seek revenge on Charan and Priya?" Du Dehai looked incredulous. "Revenge? What revenge? Do you still want to be arrested and put in prison?" Li Shuken glared at him. "Didn't Seole say? Charan and Priya have bodyguards protecting them, and people from the military as their backing. We can't fight them. Then what do you want? We are Tian's adoptive parents, and now our only son is also in prison. Priya has to support us. If she and Charan don't take care of us, then we'll spread rumors and ruin their reputation." Li Shuken spat, her face full of calculation. "What you said makes sense, Shuken. Actually, I figured it out. If we get along well with Charan and Tian, maybe we can also enjoy a comfortable life." Du Dehai's face showed anticipation. Let's go find them now." After the two discussed it, they clarified the direction and walked towards Fuyung. The location of Fuyung was naturally learned from Kiran's mouth. Kiran was still hoping that Li Shuken and Du Dehai would avenge him, but who knew that this couple only wanted immediate benefits. They wanted to live a luxurious life with Charan and Priya, so they naturally wouldn't listen to Kiran and continue to oppose Charan and Priya. The two walked and asked, and finally, before dusk, they arrived outside the gate of Fuyung. Seeing how vast Fuyung was and how exquisite the buildings inside were, a greedy look flashed in Du Dehai and Li Shuken's eyes. What a beautiful garden! If they could live in it, that would be wonderful. As the two were daydreaming, the bodyguards of Fuyung noticed their abnormality. A look of vigilance appeared on their faces, and they came to check. "What are you doing?" Facing the bodyguards, questioning, Li Shuken and Du Dehai were not flustered at all. Li Shuken forced a bright smile onto her face. "We are Priya's adoptive parents, here to see her and Charan." After she finished speaking to the bodyguards, she prepared to pull Du Dehai and step inside the Fuyung gate. The two bodyguards quickly reached out and stopped them. "Fuyung prohibits unauthorized entry. If you wish to see the master and madam, you can only enter after we have announced your arrival and received their permission. Then hurry up and announce us." Li Shuken urged the bodyguards, "Tell Tian and Charan that we are Tian's adoptive parents." The bodyguard sized them up for a few moments before speaking. "You two wait here, I'll go in and announce you." Good, hurry up." Inside Fuyung, having just finished dinner, Charan and Priya were currently taking care of the twin babies. The children changed daily. In less than 10 days, the two babies had grown noticeably plumper and whiter, looking very adorable. While they were playing with the children, Butler Wang suddenly walked over quickly and said to Charan and Priya, "Sir, madam, there's a couple at the gate of Fuyung. They claim to be madam's adoptive parents and wish to see you." Adoptive parents? Priya frowned slightly, and the figures of Du Dehai and Li Shuken appeared in her mind. Could it be them? It should be Du Dehai and Li Shuken, released from prison, Charan said. Priya nodded. "What do they want from us? Do you want to see them?" Charan asked for her opinion. Priya didn't want to see them. Du Dehai and Li Shuken had left her with nothing but bad memories. However, since these two had been released from prison, if they didn't meet and clarify things, Du Dehai and Li Shuken might not give up and would frequently cause trouble, which would also be a nuisance. "Take them to the Meh Hall then." Priya spoke. "Yes, madam." Butler Wang turned and left. "Let's meet them and make things clear," Priya said, "to avoid future trouble." "I'll go with you." Charan reached out and held her hand. The couple temporarily entrusted the children to the nanny. Charan helped Priya put on her coat, put on her hat, and supported her to the Meh Hall. Tian had given birth less than 10 days ago, and although her body was recovering well, she was certainly not like a normal person. In the living room, Du Dehai and Li Shuken's eyes darted around, secretly calculating. Walking in just now, they had seen the beautiful scenery in Fuyung and felt it was simply like heaven. If they could mend their relationship with Priya, they could live here in the future. At this moment, both of them were thinking about how to behave when they saw Priya. Footsteps came from the doorway, and Li Shuken and Du Dehai looked up simultaneously. Upon seeing Charan and Priya, both were somewhat surprised. Had Charan and Priya changed so much in 2 years? The two people walking towards them now exuded an aura of nobility. Charan looked more mature and steady than 2 years ago, and Priya was even more beautiful and outstanding. They seemed to have been reborn. How could one now see any trace of the Priya who used to toil like a beast of burden in the Du family, wearing heavily patched clothes and eating their leftovers? Charan helped Priya walk in and sit down on the mess seat in the living room. After recovering from their daze, Du Dehai and Li Shuken quickly came forward. Tian, Charan, long time no see. Li Shuken said with red eyes, "Mom missed you so much." "Yes, Tian, originally your mother and I were worried you'd suffer after marrying Charan, but now that we see you're doing well, we can both rest assured." Du Dehai also pretended to wipe away tears. Priya looked up and scrutinized them. After more than 2 years spent in prison, Du Dehai and Li Shuken had become much thinner and older. Several strands of white hair had appeared at their temples. However, the smiles on their faces were deliberately forced, and deep in their eyes an unconcealed calculation flickered. Priya, who now had extensive experience in judging people, how could she not see through their cunning intentions? Why are you two here to see me? Priya spoke indifferently. Tian, what are you saying? We naturally came because we care about you. As soon as we were released from prison, we came to see you. Li Shukan hastily said, I heard you and Charan had a child. How old is the child now? Bring him out for us to see. There's no need for these false pretenses. Priya said, you two know clearly what kind of life I lived in your home all these years. From childhood to adulthood, I served as a servant for your family of 3, washing clothes, cooking, doing housework, working in the fields, collecting firewood in the mountains. You called me your adopted daughter, but in reality, I was just a maid you could order around. At that time, for 1,000 yuan, you wanted to sell me to an old lame man. Later, it was Charan who personally came to propose marriage, which prevented my misfortune. Priya looked at them quietly, speaking her thoughts from back then. I thought at the time, if you really agreed to marry me to the lame man, I would rather escape, even die, than agree. Dudhai and Li Shukan exchanged glances, feeling a little flustered hearing Priya say these words. When Charan came to propose marriage, you demanded 1,000 yuan in betrothal money, and even the 3 turns and 1 sound, you kept for yourselves. The day I married Charan, you didn't prepare any dowry for me. You treated me like merchandise, selling me off. From that moment on, your kindness in raising me was completely offset. A hint of mockery flashed in Priya's eyes. What's more, when you adopted me, it wasn't because you were being charitable, but because you saw the money and tickets I had on me. That money helped you to get through difficult times. Even if another family raises a dog, they develop feelings after a few years, but you treated me like a dog. Tian, don't say that. Li Shukan's face felt a little hot from what Priya said. But she didn't know how to refute it. Ever since I married Charan, I decided to no longer associate with you. Later, my real relatives came to recognize me. They originally wanted to properly thank you too, but after learning how I was treated in your home all these years, they wished they could rush over immediately and give you a good lesson. Priya glanced at them both, her clear, cold voice continuing to echo in the living room. The merits and demerits cancelled each other out. My family, in the end, out of consideration for your having raised me, did not act against you. But you were not content, and later, feeling resentful, you repeatedly came to bother me and Charan. Because you couldn't get any benefits from us, you two conspired to have the lame man try to ruin my innocence and my entire future. When Priya said this, Li Shukan and Dudhai's faces turned pale. When that lame man failed and had his route destroyed, they were terrified, fearing he would betray them. Later, seeing no movement, they relaxed. They hadn't expected that Charan and Priya had known all along. How can you treat me like that and still expect me to be close to you? Tian, Dudhai and Li Shukan's complexions were slightly pale. But we did indeed raise you. If we hadn't picked you up back then, you might have starved to death. Li Shukan cried, it wasn't easy raising you. Just based on the title that we're your adoptive parents, you have to support us in our old age. Yes. What's more, our son Xiole was sent to prison because of you two. You two must support us in our old age. Dudhai also had a ruffian expression. Kiran was idle and indulged in gambling. It was only a matter of time before someone like him embarked on a path of crime. He wasn't harmed by Charan and me. Tian scoffed. Then when he owed gambling debts, since you two had the ability to help him pay them back, why didn't you? You just watched him get his leg broken, you are too heartless. Li Shukan demanded indignantly. Why should we help him? Tian's voice was cold. Kiran has hands and feet, but he was unmotivated, didn't work hard to earn money, and always thought about getting something for nothing. Wasn't that because you two spoiled him? He went gambling, accumulated huge gambling debts, and got his leg broken when he couldn't pay them back. He brought that upon himself. Later, he engaged in kidnapping and extortion, plotted to harm important national talents, injured hostages, and violated laws and regulations, leading to a life sentence. He deserved that. What's more, why do you think I would care about our past sibling affection? Wasn't Kiran's attitude towards me, ever since he was little, instigated by you two? The arrival of Dudhai and Li Shukan brought back many unpleasant memories for Tian. Living with them for so many years, she had never experienced the warmth of family or the feeling of being loved. Therefore, she had always only felt gratitude towards Dudhai and Li Shukan. And a part of that gratitude she repaid by working herself to the bone, and another part was repaid by Charan's betrothal gift. Now, their nurturing grace towards Tian had long been exhausted. Upon hearing Tian Tian's accusations, Du Dehai and Li Shuken recalled past events, and their expressions turned very ugly. Tian Tian was right. Because she was adopted, Du Dehai and Li Shuken hadn't paid much attention to her. When she was first adopted, because of the money and tickets she had, the two of them took good care of her for a period. However, after Kiran was born, Tian Tian was forgotten by them. When Kiran grew up, he would bully Tian Tian whenever he was slightly displeased, and Du Dehai and Li Shuken would always scold and insult Tian Tian without asking any questions. It could be said that those three were the ones who hurt Tian Tian the most. Tian Tian, I know our past actions were wrong, but now Seolei has been sentenced to life imprisonment, and we are getting old. You are our only hope. Seeing that being tough wouldn't work, Li Shuken started crying and tried to appeal to Tian Tian with family affection. If you don't take care of us, what will we do? Boo-hoo-hoo. Good daughter, please just pity us. We are homeless now, are you going to just watch us wander the streets? Du Dehai also looked pleading. In short, their words implied that they were determined to rely on Tian Tian. Facing their shamelessness, Tian Tian did not get angry. Her gaze rested on Du Dehai and Li Shuken, and she chuckled softly. What you said is true, Kiran will be in prison for life, and you two are indeed pitiful. Alright, for the sake of you having raised me, I will support you in your old age. Hearing Tian Tian's words, Du Dehai and Li Shuken's hearts filled with joy. They looked at Tian Tian expectantly. When you two are too old to move and can no longer take care of yourselves, I will naturally arrange for someone to send you to a nursing home. Tian Tian's tone was indifferent. This is the last thing I will do for you. Tian Tian, you. Li Shuken felt mocked. She had thought that Tian Tian would be willing to let them stay in Fuyung, serve them meticulously, and live a life of wealth and luxury. She never expected that her idea of supporting them in old age meant sending them to a nursing home when they were too old to move. She truly was an adopted daughter, she didn't care about them at all. Tian Tian, Charan, don't you two fear that we'll go out and tell people that you are unfilial for treating us like this? Du Dehai threatened through gritted teeth, if you're ready to treat us like this, after we leave, we will make sure everyone knows that Tian Tian is an ungrateful person and unnurturable white-eyed wolf. Heh, Tian Tian sneered, then go ahead and spread rumors. This indifferent attitude angered Du Dehai. Du Dehai, pulling Li Shuken, stormed out, truly intending to ruin Tian Tian's reputation outside. He and Li Shuken would then widely publicize their plight, crying pitifully, portraying themselves as helpless and abandoned, claiming that Tian Tian had turned her back on them now that she was rich, forgetting their nurturing grace and solidifying the charge of unfilial conduct against her. By then, external pressure would force Tian Tian to support them. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Tian Tian's calm voice sounded, successfully stopping Du Dehai and Li Shuken. What? उनकी आंखों में उलझन साफ दिखाई दे रही थी। चारान अब हुआक्सिया के शिक्षाविद किन हैं, एक वैज्ञानिक अनुसंधान प्रतिभा जिन्होंने देश के लिए महान योगदान दिया है। क्या आपको लगता है कि देश आपको अफवाहें फैलाने और एक जोड़े के रूप में हमारी प्रतिष्ठा को धूमिल करने देगा? ध्यान से सोचो, अब हमारा विरोध करने का मतलब है देश के खिलाफ खड़ा होना। उसका स्वर शांत था, लेकिन उसमें निहित चेतावनी ने डू दहाई और ली शुकिन की रूह कंपा दी। कोई आश्चर्य नहीं कि तियान तियान और चारान इतने निडर लग रहे थे। पता चला कि सिर्फ 2 साल से भी कम समय में वे इतनी तेजी से बड़े हो गए थे। वे दोनों डर से कांपते और कांपते पैरों के साथ फुयुआन से चले गए। फुयुआन के द्वार पर खड़े होकर वे पीछे मुड़े, ऊंचे द्वार और प्रवेश द्वार पर पहरा दे रहे अंगरक्षकों को एकटक देखते रहे। ये बगीचा उनकी आंखों में असीम रूप से फैला हुआ लग रहा था। वे समुद्र में रेत के कणों जितने छोटे महसूस कर रहे थे। यह ऐसा था जैसे कोई चींटी किसी पेड़ को हिलाने की कोशिश कर रही हो। उन्होंने खुद को बहुत ज्यादा आंक लिया था। पति, आपको क्या लगता है, हमें आगे क्या करना चाहिए? ली शुकिन की आंखों में डर और उलझन की एक झलक उभरी और वह बुदबुदाए। डू दहाई का हाथ कांप उठा और उसने जल्दी से ली शुकिन को खींच लिया। अब से हम उनसे दूर ही रहेंगे। जब तक हम उन्हें उकसाएंगे नहीं, वे सक्रिय रूप से हमसे कोई परेशानी नहीं ढूंढेंगे। तुम सही कह रही हो, मैं दोबारा जेल नहीं जाना चाहती। ली शुकिन की आंखों में दहशत फैल गई। चाहे वे कितने भी लालची या बेशर्म क्यों न हो, वे देश का विरोध करने की हिम्मत नहीं कर सकते थे। चरण और तियान तियान अब ऐसे लोग थे जिन्हें वे अपमानित नहीं कर सकते थे। ... फुयुआन के अंदर चरण ने तियान तियान को बेडरूम में वापस लाने में मदद की। क्या तुम थकी हो? चरण ने उसका हाथ पकड़ा और धीरे से पूछा। थकी नहीं, तियान तियान ने धीरे से अपना सिर हिलाया। उसने चरण की आंखों में देखा और अचानक कहा, पति, धन्यवाद। तुम अचानक मुझे धन्यवाद क्यों दे रही हो? चरण मुस्कुराया और उसके गोरे, कोमल गाल पर चुटकी लेने के लिए आगे बढ़ा। तियान तियान ने हाथ बढ़ाकर चरण की कमर पकड़ ली और अपना सिर उसकी छाती पर टिका दिया। क्योंकि तुमने मुझे उस अत्याचारी और घुटन भरे परिवार से दुखों से बचाया और मुझे एक खुशहाल और आनंदमय जीवन दिया। तियान तियान फुसफुसाया, मैं अक्सर सोचती हूँ, अगर अगला जन्म भी हो तो भी मैं तुमसे शादी करके तुम्हारी पत्नी बनना चाहती हूँ।